Hey, Shane with Kustoms. We're back. We're trying to show you a whole bunch more stuff. We've got a lot going on this last couple weeks, and we're just trying to keep you guys up to speed with everything we got going on.
This is the sail panel piece that they had patched in, somebody at some point. And you can see that the backside, all they did was take a piece of metal and they lapped it right over the top, which created a lot of waves and dents in there. And then they went ahead and just put body filler right over the top of it. And here, that's not good. So I went ahead and made a pattern for this. And then I cut the pattern out, obviously, and made it out of metal. And in order to get the right shape and the right contours, I had to English wheel it. And then I ran it through a planishing hammer a little bit. That way it would stretch the metal out. And then I finish welded it, sanded it, and then I began my hammer work to straighten the panel out completely. I think it turned out pretty well. This section here that I still have to go through and fix, and you can see every place that they cut it, I'll have to go back in and fix all of this. Those divots are just way too deep for us to do any kind of filler work or anything like that. We want it as straight as we can possibly get it before it goes into the bodywork stage. So I ended up having to cut out the entire roof section. I put a new roof on, and with the same techniques of TIG welding and letting it cool and then doing my hammer work, it came out pretty well. They had overlapped the pieces, and then they had overlapped it again with about a 2-inch strip up the center on the roof. So I ended up having to cut out the entire rear section. I hand formed this entire section here out of flat sheet metal. That one took a little bit of time, but it turned out really good. It has a nice flow. If you look on the inside, I ended up having to cut out all the inner structure bracing in order to reach those welds to be able to hammer properly. After I get the roof exactly how I want it, these pieces done correctly, then I'll have to go back in and put the structure back in. But I'd rather have it done right.
The leaf spring normally is sitting on top of the axle here, and that's why the truck sits higher. So what we do is we take all this off, put the leaf spring under the axle, bolt it in with the kit, and then you notch out where I have kind of marked out here, you might be able to see, that's just extra clearance for the axle now as it travels up and down when the truck sits back on it, and that's what we're cutting out there as an extra support to strengthen that. Since you're cutting that out and narrowing it down, reduces a lot of the strength in this, so you have those extra kits to add in there, and it just adds an extra strength to the frame to make sure that there's no issues as the truck is traveling. Beyond that, that's about as simple as the rear leaf flip kit goes. A handful of hours and cutting that out, but the flip itself doesn't take too long at all. And this one just came in this afternoon, so it's just been a couple hours of flipping that around and lining up those rear notches there to cut them in, weld them in. It should be gone by lunchtime tomorrow. It's supposed to be just a bolt-in kit that lines up. You cut out the notch in there, put the spring, and bolt it in. Wasn't quite so lined up like it's supposed to be, so we're cutting it apart and welding it in. So I cleaned up the holes, so you got a good weld through the powder coat, ripping the top off here, and then we'll line it up, cut the notch in the frame, and just weld the whole piece in versus bolting it through and lining all that up that way. So it'll be a little bit stronger as well as line up better.
What's cool about this is just how they work. I mean, instead of a brake pedal, you got a hand brake. Instead of a reverse in a shifter, it's actually a pedal you hit reverse with. And the shifter is actually just high and low. It doesn't do any forward or reverse at all. It's kind of neat. This thing's actually got the option of an electric starter. Otherwise, it's all hand crank, 6-volt, reverse polarity 6-volt. That's kind of a cool little project. Old old engine here. It's pretty neat. It's a very, very, very basic 4-cylinder called the Banger by most hot rod guys. The lack of belt, well, I know I should say literal belt. It looks like a belt for your pants. It's a piece of leather thrown over that thing. Picked this up about 2 weeks ago. I only took me and Anthony. I figured we both supposed to be able to get it in the trailer right away, and I was very mistaken. It actually took me, Anthony, the owner, and about 45 minutes to push it into the trailer. Very underestimated the weight of this thing. It looks pretty basic, but apparently it weighs a lot more than we thought. So you've got the old 6-volt battery hiding out back here. Nothing about this has been changed at all, from what we understand. You see in the original black paint. We think at some point somebody did something with the top, but it also looks like the factory stuff. So if they did a pretty good job with it, but for the most part, it's pretty factory. So pretty stoked to work on it because I don't get to work on something this old anymore. We're usually doing retrofitting, putting LS and stuff or whatever, and this one we're just going to leave it all alone, just make it work. Can't wait.